And this next talk, it's going to be a fun one. I think it's actually worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster. In a world where encrypted secrets hang by the quantum thread, scientists, engineers race against time to secure the future of communication. As quantum computers edge closer to reality, nations prepare for the day when every code can be broken and every signal must evolve. From Europe's quantum frontlines to the core of global infrastructure, the countdown has begun. The countdown to Q-Day. Starring the moderator, Director of Disruptor Analysis, Dean Bubley.
Thank you.
The scientist, Lead Quantum Key Distribution Engineer at LVRTC, Leo Trukšans.
Thank you.
The visionary Chief Technology Officer of Central Europe at Nokia Corporation, Nils Kleman. And the trailblazer, the CEO of Think Quantum, Simone Cappelletto. Welcome. Dean, take it away.
Thank you, Aldis. And I trust that the villain of this movie is not sitting amongst us as well. So I am Dean Bubley. I am an industry analyst and what I sometimes refer to as a telco futurist. I look at what's going on in the telecoms technology sphere and then try to link that to other future trends, whether that's AI, quantum, could be robotics, and a dozen other possible themes as well. Quantum's interesting for me because it's probably the first example of what I will call post-digital technology. I know everyone likes to talk about digital, but frankly, digital is old. We've had it for 180 years since Morse. So let's think about what's next, what's coming soon. And I think that one of the most interesting phenomena is around quantum technologies. And I think one thing to establish straight up front is that is a whole world and a whole discipline. There are multiple different branches of quantum. And some of it we'll cover today, but there's a whole section on quantum computing which is very, very interesting, but we're probably only going to treat that as a sort of source of risk rather than an emphasis for the panel. Instead, we're going to be talking about quantum encrypted communications, key distribution, and also how to make sure our future networks are quantum resilient and that we don't have to run these risks whenever Q-Day occurs. And I was at another event last week where someone suggested that might be 2031, but we can probably have a debate about that. So what I would like to do first of all is to go to our panelists and ask each of them, what their company does, what their role is, and also where they fit into this sort of quite complicated landscape of quantum overall. So I'm going to start first off with Leo and work my way down the line.
Okay, so I represent Latvian State Radio and Television Center. Our company really started as a broadcast provider, infrastructure for broadcasts. Approximately 100 years ago, started with building radio infrastructure, really building towers and so on. Today, our organization is one of the leading network data center and cybersecurity service providers. And we are the main partner in the Latvian National QCI project. I'm going to tell more about it in a later session today, 3 afternoon. But currently, I would say, so this was the first real infrastructure QCI project in Latvia. And we actually covered quite extensive sort of activities. We not only built the network itself using QKD links, we merged different manufacturers in a single continuous QKD network. We tested extreme ranges, close to maximum possibility of devices, use cases, and so on. So after this project, which ends, by the way, already this December, we think we've gained significant understanding of technology and competence to go further.
And to sort of go a little bit deeper. So what type of things have you actually been doing between where, what are the purposes and objectives?
Well, at the moment, our users are only, let's say, test users. We are really trying to understand what the users can get, what they can rely on, and of course, the implications of using this technology. But we are not providers like the gentleman on my left, but we are users of the technology. And we use only QKD at the moment, although we keep an eye on next quantum technologies like entanglement and similar, but currently we just use QKD for classical purpose, for securely synchronizing symmetric keys between two nodes, then implement those into classical encryptors, and so build a quantum-resistant encrypted link.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll come back to that in a little bit more. Next, Niels.
Yeah, let me perhaps start first with the industry before I talk about Nokia. I think, first of all, we are, I think, blessed, all as we are here as an industry, where to live in these times with these technology, steps, what we are experiencing. So it took us 75 years to connect 100 million people with a phone, and now it takes us as an industry 2 months to connect 100 million OpenAI customers. So, and now comes AI really in full swing, I fully believe, not like this morning was discussed if it's a bubble. I think it's not a bubble. And other things come into the game now, like drones, like robotics, etc., and now even quantum computing. So when talking about quantum computing, such a technology, I think we need to first understand what is it, but also I think most importantly we need to think about what is the value of such a technology. So, and I see quantum computing in various aspects here. I think we need to also discuss this, really be very clear what are we talking about. So one thing is of course the computing itself, which gives lots of new aspects and possibilities compared for instance to AI gigafactories. So they're not replacing, they're complementing each other certainly. Then of course we have the whole key distribution capability. And then even, which I find pretty cool, is things like now using quantum computing for positioning. But perhaps we can talk later about this one. What is Nokia doing? We are not doing phones anymore. I think I don't need to stress this one. So we are now an infrastructure provider. And not only for mobile access, we are doing more or less the whole suite. So mobile access, it's the fixed access, it's IP networks, optical networks, data center networks, with all, of course, what is aligned with this one to the management system, etc. On quantum itself, we are doing, of course, because infrastructure is our main business, encrypting, for instance, the lower layers already on the optical side, where we have solutions with encryptors on the lowest layer. We have key distribution systems already. And we're also working, for instance, together with Honeywell and Colt, for instance, on this QKD via satellite. This is also something where we are collaborating with. We are not doing quantum computers, so this is what we leave to others.
But the rest of it is, and particularly the point there about satellite is interesting, because at the moment, quantum key distribution, it involves optical components, whether that is along a fiber or between Earth and space. Are there particular nuances that you're focused on and not others? I mean, so is it terrestrial mostly, or the
we, of course, we are following the technology advancements. So as, of course, as soon as PQC is available, and then also on the QCI, so the quantum internet, as soon as this will be, of course, something we're going to jump on. As well as, of course, supporting, as said, at least on the ground, the Honeywell Corporation, for instance.
Thank you. And lastly, Simone.
Yeah, I'm Simone Capelletto. I'm the CEO of Think Quantum, that is one European provider of solution for quantum communication, so quantum key distribution, quantum random number generation, and both for terrestrial and space domains. And but from the beginning, let me say, we were very active in the European Quantum Industry Consortium, that is an association that is grouping together already more than 200 companies, 200 industries, that belongs to the ecosystem of Europe active in the quantum technologies. Also, let me say, one of the most important targets we set to ourselves is really to grow together in order to be competing in this field, not only in terms of scientific advancement, we know that we are quite advanced in terms of scientific research in this field, but also in terms of industry competition. And this comes also the discussion about sovereignty and so on and so on. I will try to contribute to the discussion today. I see a kind of Aussie stack here. Now we have the layer of quantum, the layer of networking, and then the application and the user. So we try to cover all the aspects of the stack.
Thank you. And that's very well observed. And actually, I want to follow up on that. And first off, specifically on quantum key distribution, who do you see collectively as panel? If you look out a few years' time, where will it be? Who will be deploying QKD? In what sort of places and for what sort of users? Is it going to be broadcasters? Is it governments? Is it banks? Is it every enterprise? Is it inside the data center? Where, if we come back in a few years' time, we can say, there's QKD here and here, and there are, is it tens, hundreds, thousands, or millions of nodes? Anyone want to?
Yeah, maybe. I remember last year in these events, there was a very nice discussion in the co-creation workshop. No? And one of the outcomes I remember was stop talking about quantum as a special item. No? Quantum is just an additional technology to be integrated in cybersecurity, in cyber networks and so on. So I would say that for the benefit of the results, we should try to stop considering that quantum is a completely different task compared to the other stuff. So there will be system integrator working on this, infrastructure operator, networking operator. Everybody has to define where is the piece they want to compete. And in this early phase, I would say, as in the early phase also or mobile communication and so on, there's a more integration in order to easy the path to the end customer. So sometimes the solution provider, as we are, we come directly to the end user in order to understand what they need and to easy the path to a solution. But I would say in the midterm and short midterm, I see that everybody will be back in doing what they are good in doing this. So the system integrator will integrate all technology. I think classical, PQC and QKD, and networking will be active in providing networking solution, including the accessibility for quantum layer. And the user will be, let me say, completely blind on what technology is using to provide a service. That's my viewpoint, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Neil, so
I think it will come in phases, which is logic, because I mean you have of course, the most demanding customers like the military, banks, financial institutes. They of course will pull first. But when it comes then to all the networks, I mean you have to imagine you have thousands, millions of point-to-point connections which you need to secure, where you need to exchange keys and all that. So this, of course, needs a strategy, which layer you start, are you doubling this or not, how you encrypt these things, and then to exchange the keys. I think this is a journey, and this is a massive project for all the network providers, and this will take time.
But it's mostly place to place. It's not necessarily going to be two systems in the same data center or in the same location. It's like we have two main cities and we have a node in each, and we need to have a link at each end. Or I mean, to give you context, a few weeks ago I was at an optical conference. And I was really amazed by a presentation from actually NVIDIA saying that in some of the big data centers that are being built, there can be 1.8 million optical transceivers in one data center. Now, I'm imagining that they're not all going to be QKD enabled, but the one between this data center and that data center might be. Is that fair?
As said, this is where they're going to start somewhere. Do you start inside the data center? Certainly not. But there might be some days where this also will come. Absolutely.
Well, the good thing about QKD is that it is not exactly layer 1 encryptor, or in any sense encryptor itself. Some even argue that calling it quantum cryptography is not fair. But what it can be used by a lot of consumers. So what you can have is one QKD link between two data centers, synchronizing keys securely, and then those keys are being consumed by a lot of consumers in each data center and forming their individual encrypted connections among themselves. It could be thousands of connections simultaneously using just one QKD link as a trusted source of keys.
Okay, that's really interesting.
If I may add, not to be too much technical, but let me say, even in the quantum networking, you have abstraction layer. So you have the physical layer that is point-to-point, that like optical communication finally is a physical. No? And then you have key management system, software design networking, all of these, let me say, facilitate the abstraction. So at the end user, a data center management company can be blind on this. You can have like a software-defined network orchestrating the network, and the KMS, key management system, really making the hop between different nodes and so on. So at the end, you have a population of nodes, and you have individual belonging to the network that are communicating. As you were saying before, let me say, the space is a part of this because you have, the idea is to have metropolitan area network where you have a quantum communication network. Then you have also maybe peripheral nodes where you have only PQC connections, but somehow in line with some attention for the QDA. And then these metropolitan area network are connected via a satellite infrastructure. And this to reduce the number of nodes from one user to another user if they are far away one to each other. So the satellites become a kind of nodes where you pass through to go to another metropolitan area network. That's the viewpoint.
Right. And what does it look like from a physical point of view? Does it just look, if you have QKD enabled endpoint, does it just look like another black box in a rack, or does it need a particular, like a clean room or a particular environment or particular power supplies? What does it look like physically?
Well, if I may, a QKD end node is usually one or two devices, but one end system. But it is should be located in what ETSI 014 standard calls a single security domain. So inside the data center or some isolated environment where outside, attacks should be not possible. So in that single security domain, there would be consumers of those keys. And those would be all the other classical servers and network equipment and so on. But the QKD end node is really just one or two boxes, few units high.
So I mean, that's very different to, say, quantum computing, where you end up talking to people about liquid helium and sort of specialist infrastructure. So in theory, there's no sort of physical limitation on that market scaling. Yeah, it's not like it needs special facilities beyond the security, the physical security aspects. Okay, I want to move on a little bit and talk about sovereignty. There's a lot of discussion at this show and at others about European sovereignty, national sovereignty. What are the dimensions relating that to quantum resilience? Is this something where you'll get a European standard, a global standard? Is it going to be national because it's used for sort of cybersecurity and national defense as well as international, NATO level? What's the right abstraction layer for that, for sovereignty discussion?
I think, if I may, I think this is not particular to quantum technology. I think when we talk about digital sovereignty, which is, by the way, at the moment in all discussions, which country, whatever, this is the big topic at the moment. So, but when we try to define what do we mean actually with digital sovereignty? I mean, on one side, of course, it's clear it's the cryptography to make the secure, the data private, etc. But on the other side, many people forget it's also this other big topic of autonomy. When we talk, for instance, about Europe, because we all know we rely a lot from other continents, So autonomy means also that we need to really lift up our own ecosystem. We need to become independent, autonomous, really from a supplier landscape, etc. And this, as you can imagine, this is independent from quantum itself. It's also applicable to base stations, to AI, and everything.
And so, in terms of your supply chain for the work you described, have you got do you have that independence today, or?
It has nothing to do now with Nokia or our company itself. It's really about, I would say, the regulatory aspects here. As I said, we have more or less 3 layers. We have the technology, security, and sovereignty. We have then the regulatory things, and then, of course, the supply chain. We, in Europe, for instance, when we talk now about Europe, this is what we all need to always keep in mind. And autonomy plays a big role here.
Maybe also on this, I think I'm here promoting not quantum solution, but let me say, talking that quantum is just part of the world we belong. No? So also the Semiconductor Act by the European Commission is really being able to find the technology we need in Europe. No? And this you have all components, you have photonic integration, the factories, the fabs, and so on. So quantum is a relevant part of this awareness that comes after 2020. Let me say that we were a little bit too weak. And let me say, luckily, something started, and luckily in time, because now the sovereignty sounds different. Every 6 months, we have to adjust ourselves. What is European and comparison with the rest of the world, let me say.
And it also includes skills. So the workforce, do we have the skills in Europe? Do we have the infrastructure in Europe? Where are the data we are using for that one? Are they located in Europe or elsewhere? Where are they operated, for instance, also? So who has access to the systems? I mean, this is a whole landscape of regulatory topics you need to look at when we talk about digital sovereignty.
Yes, exactly. Building a QKD network is really not a trivial thing. A lot of considerations, including security policy, starting from physical to access of users. One thing that stands in the way of better adoption of QKD is still a lack of proper security certification. Multiple users still wait for that. And those are the premium users that really want QKD and nothing more.
So we actually almost like going to have sort of licenses. It's like, do you have your quantum license? You can have a system installed or something like that. Is there going to be certification, licensing, a governance framework about who can use this and for what?
Well, probably not for users. Let's remember that QKD is purely a defense instrument, defense technology rather. But for the providers, it's very important that they prove that their devices are really secure according to a number of standards. And that's the thing that is still evolving and should finally come to some conclusion.
No, so that's something that you are waiting for and that your customers are sort of waiting for as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the word certification was falling. I mean, of course, also like we are doing today with 5G, with the core networks, with the BSI in Germany, for instance, or ANSI in France, UK has the same sort of agencies. They're all starting to certify. I mean, there's also a reason why we need to think seriously about, do we need to do this now in every country individually, which is, of course increases the cost like hell, or are we doing this on a European level just to more efficiently do these sort of things? But I mean, looking also to the numbers, I was just reading recently, 10% of the private investment in quantum was last year going into Europe. So 50% was going into the US.
Yeah.
And I assume the remaining 40% certainly into Asia. But this speaks as such, I think. So we need to really build, therefore, for the point of sovereignty, we need to build an ecosystem. We need to really be attractive. And as I said in this example, certification, really try not to overload this, and here we're back to bureaucracy and all this administration, etc., to really seriously think in the direction of making things simpler, so more to attract also money, because at the end everything is money, right, and investment.
I want to come back to something we touched on very briefly in the kickoff around sensing and positioning and timing. As well as the encryption side of quantum, there's a bunch of other things you can do. Niels, you mentioned that, but I think that the other panelists, Leo or Simone, if you've got a view as well, what's happening with, say, timing and sensing?
I know that Leo wanted to. No. Okay. No, basically, quantum is also now a potential tool to distribute timing and frequency, and that's something that has completely different use cases from the cryptography, the confidentiality, authentication, but it's still getting more and more attention, let me say. And even because of, say, weaknesses of other tools we were discussing, like GPS and so on, no need to talk in this area of Europe about the problem that GPS may have. And so alternative ways that are providing more security, more resilience, let me say, from interferences are more than welcome from the industry.
Just to give people a bit of a background here, is a lot of systems use GPS or similar satellite systems for very, very accurate timing. You need to have, say, timestamps for financial transactions, or you might need timing to synchronize transmissions in a radio network on a public mobile network. And essentially GPS is becoming, as we know in this area in particular, less reliable. So alternative ways of distributing timing signals are very interesting.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, I think this positioning is a fantastic use case of quantum. I see a lot of value in this one. There was just, was it a year ago or half a year ago, that the US regulator, FCC, has launched a paper asking, are there alternatives for the classic GPS? More hinting towards terrestrial positioning systems, which also is possible, of course. We also 5G advanced and 6G is working towards get more accurate with the terrestrial systems. But I think the amazing thing with this quantum-based positioning is that you don't need GPS. It's more or less an autonomous, more or less box what you can have, and they are doing tests already, which you can put into whatever vehicle, in a submarine, military use cases, of course, are very attractive for this, but also for airplanes in general, etc. So there was made a test. They were flying 700 kilometers, and the accuracy was 4 meters, without any GPS in between. I mean, therefore, I think this, of course, that we need to get this into the right form factor to put this into whatever, so we are not dependent at all. We know also the issues we have with GPS when we are in a dense urban area with skyscrapers, etc. So tons of use cases we can imagine with this sort of use case. So I think this sounds very interesting.
Indoors. I mean, just indoor positioning where you don't have a GPS repeater or something like that.
Especially nowadays, and we heard this several times also, not only here but also in the other panels, that this jamming, of course, is a big topic. It's also expensive. I mean, a GPS is every 5G base station usually uses a GPS, if not having the network clocking. Because especially when you go into the higher 5G frequencies, 3.5, etc., it's TDD modulation. So with this, we need, of course, a much more accurate clock here for this. So a lot of savings, benefits, and more resilient, of course, also with this, I see.
Yeah, we really see demand for precise timing system in Latvia. As you mentioned, GPS jamming has become almost everyday problem. Really affects communications.
So zooming back out a bit, I mean, it was interesting, Simone, we had a conversation last night that the sort of post-quantum cryptography people and the quantum key distribution people don't always talk to each other all the time. Yeah, I didn't realize it's sort of quantum politics. That's a new phrase. I think I'm the first person to use that term. What does that mean in terms of the future, either in terms of, for policymakers, where they should invest, And also, from a business point of view, are there going to be hybrids of lots of different quantum technologies blended together?
Let me say that if you step back and we look to the movie, the last years, we moved from more scientific maturity and then to industry. At the beginning, I would say that there was also an identity issue, because there was also post-quantum is mainly traditional cryptography, mathematician, this kind of community. On the other side, QKD is from physics, so another community. So there was also a difficulty in communication, different words and so on. So the more these two technologies are mature, to me, the easier is the communication, and more is, let me say, is agreed by everybody that the solution comes from the integration of all these technologies. This is the direction of the European community, the European Commission as well. So there are pros and cons of each technology in terms of, let me say, complexity, in terms of the value that they can propose. Now, on one side, you have QKD that is future-proof because it's based on physics. On the other side, you have a solution that is anyway based on computational complexity, but let me say pros and cons, cost, distances that can be covered. So I would say that there's no need for a conflict between of them, and everybody now agrees that there will be an integration of two technology. And also the fact that the community start becoming more diverse, so you have not this discussion between maths and physics, but you have a more system integrator that are used to integrate something that is different.
Thank you. Team physics here.
Nobody's perfect.
Yes, coming back to your one of the first questions, what will happen in 2 years? I think hybrid solutions is what exactly is going to happen, because QKD has its own, limitations, let's put it like that. Some people are even not suggesting to use QKD, but still, it's the only currently available, commercially available technology with perfect forward secrecy. What you synchronize with QKD today will be forever lost, as opposed to capture classical network streams today and decrypt them later. So QKD will come, but it will be slowly coming. PQC is theoretically a wonderful solution, just update in all our devices and we are all quantum safe. But still this uncertainty, will there ever be a genius mathematician who solves the lattice problem, for instance? We don't know that. QKD currently is the only radical solution.
So potentially it's AI proof. Because I mean, the question here is, which of these is AI going to accelerate first? But
I would even, beside hybrid within the quantum domain itself, I would even widen the question. Do we see hybrid solutions where quantum is also embedded? I mean, we were a long time talking about, we came from circuit switched networking, then came IP, then we had these cloud native networks, right? Now we talk we are in the age of AI native networks, and will there be a quantum native networking? So I'm a believer on this one, because you see already now that quantum will play a role also in the context of AI. So our AI gigafactories we are building or trying to build now in Europe, there will be a corner where there will be a quantum computer which will be connected to also, first of all, the classic gigafactory, but also then to other quantum computers. So I see also that there's a big opportunity to apply quantum computers for optimizing the resource management of an air interface of radio, for instance. So using quantum, for very particular, we have these options then, as soon as it's mature, of course.
I absolutely agree, and we're sort of getting to the point where we're going to shift over to Q&A. So if you haven't already logged onto the Slido. Hopefully there's a QR code, but it looks like from Aldous coming over. And I was going to say before that, as well as that hybrid, I've just recently started looking at next-gen analog signal processing and neuromorphic and a few other developments. So I think we're going to be okay for conference panels for a few years, yeah. Aldous.
All right, maybe a question in the audience. Please do raise your hand. Is there someone with a question? If not, we have 5 questions. Let's tackle them quickly. First one, the most popular one. What are some of the threat models and attacks that quantum key distribution protects against? I think you touched upon it, but maybe some more examples.
Absolutely. So if you open on the street, you spill some light, there you can get classical communication. If you have a computational power with quantum computing, you can really recover the classical key that has been used to encrypt the communication, and then you get the complete information that is flowing from one user to the other. And basically, this can happen today. So no matter when the day will be, but I can already store your data in my server, and maybe in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, no matter when, I will be able to recover the last communication of the last 10 years. That's
That's
the nightmare to be used to consider. Is it early enough to consider this topic or not? Yeah.
It's like, what secrets did you have 5 years ago that you wouldn't like to be revealed today? Yeah.
Industrial property or whatever.
Yes, just to add a few sentences, QKD uses quantum non-cloning theorem. That's fundamental physical phenomena. And onto that builds certain protocols that make sure that eavesdropper is guaranteed to be detected. And if it is not detected, and there's certain measurements you can do that to do it, then the keys never ever, no one saw along the path, only at the end nodes. And so that's how these keys are trusted at the ends. That's what QKD solves.
Related question, how much does it cost to prepare yourselves for the quantum attacks? I think a lot of people are crunching numbers in the audience. What would it be, is there actually an estimation for this?
How much does it cost today every ransomware attack? Can you imagine something that is stealing all the information you have in the network? So, as in all the instruments that you have in cybersecurity, the point is how much is the risk I'm covering and how much I'm paying today. Let me say, this is a political answer, but the real answer is that today we have a couple of devices that are in the range of 150 to 200,000 euros, but scaling a lot. So. Really comparable with all the costs that you have to build up a data center, for example. I don't know if I'm speaking on, maybe they use a different point, but we are not speaking about the cost of a quantum computer. No?
Right, okay. I mean, given we've been talking recently about the AI industry having $1 trillion capex, that's not huge. So it's, okay.
In the same order of magnitude of a router or a network.
Yeah, if you want to do, yeah, exactly, yeah. It's like, how many zeros would you like? Obviously, Nokia would like to have as many zeros as possible, but at the same time.
For sure, it's an investment, but as you say correctly, I mean, where you have to balance what is the risk versus investment, what's worse for you to invest here. But it's, of course, a very wide question. It depends on scope, etc.
And there are a lot of answers as well, because everybody has to answer the question. No? How much is my personal risk?
Of course.
How much are my data exposed?
Yes.
Dean, one more question, or do you want to wrap it up?
Go for it. We got a minute.
Can quantum technology be used as a positioning technology underwater?
Yes. Yes. It's a very clear use case, submarines being underwater for weeks without needing any GPS.
Was that quantum magnetometry? What kind of physics was used?
They were using these spinning qubits, and then they were doing some tests already.
Okay, because one of the Latvian institutes is actually one of the leaders in the world in they have made already a prototype for quantum magnetometry device that uses exactly quantum effects to so precisely measure Earth magnetic field that it can be used for a precise location, geolocation.
So they're long time stable. Their accuracy in the nanometer area. So that's why this is such a fantastic use case.
And I think, on the note of quantum magnetic positioning, I think that's probably a good time to say we've covered quite a lot of ground already, and I'd like you to thank our panelists for a really stimulating session on quantum resilience.